What's up, everybody? Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valve video. And in this video, we're going to be breaking down the new, updated for this week, best heroes, so that you know exactly what heroes are dominating right now and what heroes that you either need to have a plan to fight against, or heroes that you might be wanting to pick up so that you can dominate your game. So we're going to break all that down. Make sure you watch to the end, smash that like, subscribe, and go to the GameLeap website right now in the description down below for the highest quality in-depth guides and VOD reviews that you'll find anywhere over every single hero in Overwatch. Do yourself a favor, go check it out right now. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. So Overbuff finally refreshed, and we have the new top heroes that are being played right now at all ranks this week. But we're going to be looking at Grandmaster because we always look from the top down so that we know exactly what is working at the highest level. And we're going to note key differences between that and your rank and other characters that also might be viable. Now, starting off with the first hero, the highest pick rate hero right now is none other than Zarya with a 6.79% pick rate and a 55.28% win rate. Now, it's really important for you to understand that there's actually a discrepancy here between the pick rate of Zarya and the pick rate of Rein, where Rein has a 5.28% pick rate and Zarya has that 6.79% pick rate. So Zarya is not only being picked with just Rein. Zarya is being played with Wrecking Ball at a 4.65% pick rate, Winston at a 4.54% pick rate, Sigma at a 4.52% pick rate, and even Diva with a 4.37% pick rate. Zarya is not only a tank that can pair very well with just about any other tank, she's a tank that has a lot of solo carry potential, and in my personal opinion, if you are trying to grind the ranks on tank, Zarya is one of your best bets, especially in that off-tanking department, and the statistics here actually reflect that, and it's also true among every single rank. So the number one tip I would give you to fight against Zarya is just make sure that if a Zarya is grossly out of position, don't allow her bubbles to just be invulnerability. Make sure that you are focusing down her bubbles and then focusing down herself. You never want to give her huge charge, but you don't want her to be able to just run through your team for free because no one is actually punishing her, breaking her bubbles and basically just wiping her so she has to go back to spawn and get all that charge back again. Now, the next thing that we got to talk about is the giant block of supports that actually are from second to fourth most picked. Ana at a 6.51% pick rate, Baptiste at a 6.09% pick rate, Mercy at a 5.6% pick rate, and Lucio at a 5.37% pick rate. Basically, even though Ana and Baptiste break that 6%, every single one of these characters are a really high pick rate. Now, after these four supports, every other support drops way off. So you're probably going to want to be rocking one of these four. These are going to be the four most played in the meta, but every single one of these is viable in different ways. Ana is incredibly good at enabling a character like Rein. She's also good at enabling characters like Winston, and pound for pound, she has one of the highest carry potentials in the entire game. Baptiste really can benefit a brawl, especially like a Rein Zarya brawl, where you're trying to get in close, boost in with Lucio, and that immortality field allows you to really pull your team through team fights that otherwise you would have lost. Baptiste is definitely a character that I think is a lot easier to play than Ana to get about the same amount of value. Sure, maybe Ana has some higher peaks, but Baptiste is still perfectly reasonable to climb with, and I do think that generally he's going to be better in the lower ranks. Of course, we got to talk about Mercy. Mercy with a really high pick rate, definitely going to be able to pocket a lot of the different characters that see play in the DPS category, like McCree and Echo and Ashe. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Of course, she's also a fantastic support to be playing with a composition that has Wrecking Ball in it, or Winston in it, or even Diva in it, because she can kind of be that one mobility-based hero that gets to kind of go wherever she's needed on the battlefield. Definitely very powerful. However, it is important to understand that she only has a 50.93% win rate, so she is about middle of the pack at this rank, but I do think that she has a much higher win rate at the other ranks. Now, last up, we got to talk about Lucio. Lucio, of course, is going to play incredibly well either with the dive. He's going to be able to dive in and go in with his team, with a Tracer, with an Echo, with a Winston. He's going to be able to go in and help his team and kind of initiate that dive. And with the Brawl, he can speed boost the Rein and Zarya around. So he's definitely very flexible, and he's definitely a character that has a really solid place in this meta currently. But just make sure that, especially when you have DPS like McCree, for example, that you're keeping an eye on them and you're trying to peel for them as reactively as possible, because a McCree with even a little bit of peel support from a Lucio just makes it so he's so hard to kill, and he can just consistently be outputting tons of damage and potentially getting a lot of really valuable pickoffs. Now, of course, let's go back to the tanking category really quickly before we touch on the DPS. We need to talk about all the tanks that are seeing play because pretty much all of them are seeing a decent amount of play. Reinhardt, we already said, at that 5.28% pick rate, but Wrecking Ball at 4.65, Winston at 4.54, Sigma at 4.52, and Diva at 4.37. Effectively, every single tank is seeing a legitimate amount of play besides Roadhog and Orisa, who unfortunately are just bottom of the barrel right now. But, of course, Roadhog is still viable at the very low ranks, but in general, there are going to be better options for you to play and learn from. Now, Wrecking Ball is a character that is legitimately always viable at pretty much every single rank. However, the problem with Wrecking Ball is there's a huge difference between a Wrecking Ball that does things for a purpose with intent and a Wrecking Ball that just flounders around and gets nothing done. This is directly reflected in the win rate for Wrecking Ball at 49.44%. The difference between a good Wrecking Ball and a bad Wrecking Ball is just night and day. And while, yes, you can just exist on Wrecking Ball, proactively setting up plays for the rest of your team and really trying to coordinate things with your team is really the way that you're going to make the absolute difference on Wrecking Ball, either displacing enemies, trapping them with your mines, or just making sure that you're specifically baiting out certain CCs so that your team can kind of execute another dive later on. You could go through, bait out CC, make sure that you live, wrap back around, grab a mega, and then re-engage with your team when the enemy is low on all these cooldowns. Now let's talk about the other divers first, specifically Winston and Diva. So a lot of these characters are going to be very map dependent, and of course skill dependent is a big part of it, but Winston is of course going to be a really great character on some maps with verticality. Maps like New Bonnie, Winston is going to have the most amount of value compared to a lot of the other maps. Now that being said, Winston is a character that I think a lot of people consistently play him very poorly. You need to be really cognizant about just how quickly you can die on Winston if you don't engage properly. Just because you're trying to cleave the enemy and get a lot of damage and build up your ult charge doesn't mean you need to be jumping on top of like 4 people. A lot of the time you want to be actually playing around natural cover, playing on the high ground when enemies are on their low ground, trying to mess with the elevation of the character, and always make sure that you never bite off more than you can chew. It's always okay to just poke it for a little bit with Winston and then dip out. As long as you're alive, eventually you'll find those opportunities, you'll build up that ult charge, and you can constantly put a lot of pressure on the enemy team where the supports are, you know, playing a lot more passive, a lot more reserved. They have to watch out for you. They can't push up with their team, and you create space because of all these things. Don't just give your life away way too much. I think especially when lower ranked players play Winston and even higher ranked players, there's way too high of a percentage of the time where the Winston player is the one that actually dies first, which is absolutely unacceptable. Now, I did want to talk about Diva briefly. Diva is a character that has an extremely high skill ceiling. She can eat grab, she can eat nade, she can pressure out a lot of different supports like Baptiste, Boop, and has an ultimate that can get a lot of value. The big problem with Diva is she just remains one of the most difficult characters to play, and it's very, very easy to just feed on her all the time. You got to make sure that you are really balancing your DM. You cannot allow yourself to just be an ult battery for the enemy team. You need to be treating your mech as your life. When you are baby Diva, you are absolutely useless. In fact, sometimes you are a legit negative or a detriment to your team because you end up getting staggered and you make it so that your team has less overall fights. Just make sure that you are still using natural cover, you're taking your engagements with intent, you're getting in, you're getting out, you're using your DM for very specific purposes and not just wasting it, and you're gonna have a lot better time on Diva. But last up, we do gotta talk about Sigma. Sigma, a very interesting character because he's very good at shutting down other characters. You can like bully a lot of different DPS as Sigma and really single them out, target them out. I think Sigma's an amazing character when you have someone on the enemy team that is obviously very, very good, especially like a DPS like a McCree or something, and you really just want to basically shut them down, make them a lot less effective, keep an eye on them. Sigma's a great character to do that, but Sigma is also a very hard character to play. A lot of maxmen, a lot of difficulty there, but I do think that Sigma is definitely viable, but he is one of the harder tanks to get value on right now. Now, last but certainly not least, we got to talk about the damage dealers. Now, of course, there's going to be more optional damage dealers. Damage dealers typically are more interchangeable. Not only are there more options, but there's a lot of overlap with different characters. But the top DPS in order from top 1 to top 4 is going to be McCree at a 5.2% pick rate, Tracer at a 4.04% pick rate, Junkrat at a 3.32% pick rate, Echo at a 3.19% pick rate, and Ash at a 2.09% pick rate. Now, let's first talk about the obvious characters that are definitely very good. So, McCree, still very good, still very powerful, even after a lot of his changes. He's still a very good character. He plays really well with Reinhardt, really well with Zarya, and while he's not the best in dive, he's pretty good against dive as long as he has effective peel. So, it's going to depend a lot about your positioning, and you need to be positioning yourself a lot safer when you have enemies that can really punish you, enemies that can dive you. Specifically, D.Va is a character that can be very annoying to deal with. Now, Tracer is just pound for pound one of the most effective characters regardless of the rank, as long as you have the skills to back her up. She doesn't need a lot of resources to get things done. She has the ability to get solo pickoffs. I mean, the list goes on and on. As long as Brig is not just absolutely dominant in the meta, Tracer is going to just be one of the best DPS characters you could possibly pick at the highest rank. But in the middle tiers of rank and the lower tiers of rank, Tracer is a very hard character to play. But the one tip that I would give a lot of Tracer players is just make sure that you're being really effective with your ammo. Make sure that every single shot is in a range that is actually doing substantial damage, and that you're not firing way too soon before you engage an enemy so you don't have enough ammo to finish off a target. Really go look at some of the top Tracers and watch them stream, and notice how they really effectively use every single bullet to transfer damage. And sometimes they won't reload after every blink. They'll use a little bit of their ammo and then they'll blink, and then use a little bit more ammo, blink, reload, and then go on and on and on. And they're just really effectively trading damage per second, you know, better than basically everyone else. Now, the next characters we do have to talk about, Echo and Ashe. I did want to mention them. Both these characters are very good. Echo and Ashe both definitely benefit from a mercy pocket, and also I do think that both of these characters combo incredibly well with Wrecking Ball. Ashe can definitely just hit a lot of headshots and dynamites in combination with Wrecking Ball Slam, and of course Echo can dive in with the Wrecking Ball and mines people that are flying up. So they work really well together. So definitely look to these characters, because sometimes McCree doesn't really go with Wrecking Ball all that much. So if you have a Wrecking Ball player, you might want to play a DPS that works really well with it. Now, that being said, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Junkrat. I'm fairly surprised that Junkrat has such a high pick rate right now. I can only assume that it has to do with the fact that Ryan and Zarya are being played a lot, and you can definitely pressure out choke points. However, this also might be an artificial spike due to some people playing Junkrat definitely, maybe a little bit more than the meta should actually reflect at some of the higher ranks. That being said, Junkrat has always been a viable character, especially if you play it on the right situation. I've said this many times in the past. But all in all, this is going to wrap up the best heroes that you could possibly be playing right now. However, there are a lot of other viable options, but we're going to be covering a lot more of those in the next video, which is going to be the worst heroes to play right now. But I'm also going to be talking about some exceptions and things like that, so make sure you smash that like, subscribe so you don't miss out, and go to the GameLeap website right now for in-depth events, guides, VOD reviews, tips, and tricks. We got so much damn content on the GameLeap website. You just got to go check it out right now down below. But thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video. I love your faces, and I'll see you next time.